Hello, dear Libra. And welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Let me ask you something right away. What if everything that's been falling apart recently is actually falling into divine place? What if the things that hurt the most were simply vessels for the greatest gifts you're about to receive? In the next few minutes, we're going to open a portal, not just a reading into your destiny. This is not just another horoscope. It's a spiritual activation, a message sent from beyond the veil, delivered at the exact moment your soul was ready. A lot of money, a symbolic funeral, and a soul-aligned marriage. These three powerful events are written into your energy right now. And if you're still watching, Libra, it's because your spirit already sensed this coming. Have you been feeling unsettled lately? Dreaming vivid images? Getting signs, numbers, or even chills for no reason at all? That's your intuition turning up the volume. That's your soul not breaking but preparing. The universe has heard what you didn't say out loud. It knows you've been holding on to things, people, and patterns that once felt safe but no longer serve you. Right now, I invite you to take a deep breath. Place your hand over your heart. And if it feels aligned, repeat softly to yourself or write it in the comments. I am ready to receive what the universe has kept only for me. Because you are not late. You are not lost. You are exactly on time for your own realignment. And if you've seen the number 7 lately in clocks, receipts, or even dreams, that's not coincidence. That's divine confirmation. In numerology, 7 is the number of inner truth, sacred alignment, and spiritual awakening. It means you're being prepared for a shift not just in your surroundings, but deep within yourself. Before we go further, let me take a moment to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Your presence here means more than you know. Every like, every thoughtful comment, every subscription supports the light of this channel and expands this healing energy to reach others just like you. You are the reason Zodiac Whisper Tarot is here. And Libra, believe me when I say this, you'll want to stay until the very last second of today's reading. Because what's being revealed is nothing short of miraculous. A destiny is shifting. A soul contract is closing. And the new chapter ahead? It will not require you to shrink, bend, or chase. It will ask only that you choose yourself. So let me ask you now, what have you been carrying that your soul is ready to lay to rest? What silent prayer did you send out that brought you here today? Don't ignore that pull. As the divine once whispered, no weapon formed against you shall prosper when your heart stands in truth. And right now, your heart knows. Let's walk together through what's coming next, and trust me, it's big. There are moments in life when everything we've been holding onto out of habit, fear, or comfort begins to feel heavier than ever before. And often, this shift doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic endings. It starts quietly, like a whisper in your spirit reminding you that something is no longer aligned with the person you're becoming. In astrology, when Libra reaches the final days of a chapter, the energy becomes sharply reflective. It asks, what are you still carrying that no longer serves the balance you seek? Financial breakthroughs often arrive not when we force them into existence, but when we release our attachment to scarcity. The Queen of Pentacles teaches us that abundance is not created throh burnout, it flows when we allow ourselves to feel worthy of it. The Justice card reinforces this, reminding Libra that your financial blessings are not random theory, the return of energy you've poured into the world, finally circling back. But here's the truth: to receive fully, you must have space. And that space comes from courage. Courage to close the door on jobs, patterns, or investments that no longer reflect your values. It's not giving up. It's growing you energetically, emotionally, and spiritually. There's also a subtler but just as powerful transformation at work: the symbolic funeral. And no, it's not morbid. It's merciful. Death, when paired with temperance, speaks not of tragedy but of transition. It's the end of something that once mattered deeply but has now run its course. For many Libras, this may show up as the end of a role you've been playing, perhaps the peacekeeper, the overgiver, or the one who stayed silent to keep things harmonious. This ending is not a punishment, it's permission. Permission to stop performing. Permission to be honest. Permission to take your energy back and pour it into something that heals you instead of depletes you. And when something ends with grace, something beautiful begins. In this case, it's a soul-aligned connection. The Lovers, when it shows up beside the Two of Swords, suggests an inner crossroads. A decision about the kind of love you want to let in and the kind you no longer have space for. The Ten of Cups completes the picture, not fleeting romance or temporary chemistry, but lasting emotional security. A partnership where you don't have to explain your light, dim your dreams, or hide your depth. But to meet this love, Libra, you must show up fully as yourself. Not the version that pleases everyone. The version that tells the truth. Even when your voice shakes. It's worth remembering that divine timing always works for your good even when it's uncomfortable. Just as the sun sets before it rises again, the universe clears what no longer supports your evolution so that what is meant for you can finally find you. And in moments of uncertainty, when you're tempted to run back to what's familiar, hear this gentle reminder: you were not created to stay small. Your life is not meant to revolve around keeping others comfortable. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to want more. And yes, you are allowed to say goodbye with love even if the world around you doesn't understand yet. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally honoring who you've been all along. And sometimes, the most sacred kind of bravery is choosing yourself, even when it means releasing what once felt safe. So I'll ask you now, Libra, what truth are you finally ready to tell yourself? And more importantly, are you willing to let go of what's no longer true, to make room for the love, prosperity, and peace that are patiently waiting to enter? There's a quiet kind of bravery that often goes unnoticed, the kind where you let go, not out of anger, but out of love. For Libra, this is one of the hardest lessons to integrate. You are ruled by Venus, the planet of harmony, connection, and beauty, and because of this, you've learned to become fluent in the language of balance. But sometimes, in the pursuit of peace, you've sacrificed your own truth. You've stayed too long in conversations where you were no longer heard, in roles that no longer reflected who you are, or in places that felt safe simply because they were familiar. Right now, the cosmic energies are gently but firmly inviting you to surrender what no longer fits your soul's growth. Not everything that falls away is a loss. Some things leave to make room for something far more aligned. When the stars shift the way they have for Libra recently, it isn't just a message, it's an invitation. An invitation to step out of the performance, take off the mask, and return to the center of who you really are. And yes, that means you might have to disappoint someone else's expectations in order to honor your own alignment. That's not selfish. That's sacred self-respect. One gentle but powerful practice I encourage you to explore is the energy goodbye letter. This isn't a letter you have to send to anyone. It's a letter you write maybe to a past version of yourself, to an old job, to a former love, or even to a belief you once clung to, and you say what was never said. You thank it. You name what it taught you. And then, most importantly, you lovingly release it. This process helps you close the energetic loop so you can walk forward without carrying invisible weight. You don't have to rush this. Libra energy is not about extremes, it's about refinement, grace, thoughtful transition. That's why certain colors, like jade green and soft pastel pink, can help during this time. They're not just aesthetic choices. These colors soothe the nervous system and open the heart chakra. Green gently anchors you in the present, while pink reminds your spirit that it's safe to receive, even after pain. When you wear them, surround yourself with them, or visualize them during breath work, you create a bridge between grief and healing, between goodbye and hello. In numerology, the numbers 2 and 6 are speaking directly to you. 2 represents divine partnership not only with others, but with yourself. It's the number of choosing peace that includes you, not peace that excludes your needs. 6 is the number of unconditional love and nurturing, but it also represents responsibility, the responsibility to protect your energy, to choose environments that uplift rather than deplete, and to create a life that feels just as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. You don't have to be at war with anyone to walk away. And you don't have to prove your pain in order to choose healing. There's a quiet confidence that grows when you trust that what is meant for you will not ask you to betray yourself in order to keep it. In moments of doubt, remind yourself, you were created with care, and that means your emotions, your boundaries, and your desires are valid. You're not here to carry what's too heavy. You're here to feel light again. So if you're wondering whether it's time to let something go, it probably is. Not because you've failed, but because you've grown. And that growth deserves to be honored, not hidden. Allow the release. Trust the process. And know that what's waiting on the other side is not emptiness, it's expansion. Sometimes healing doesn't arrive in loud declarations or dramatic changes. Sometimes, it comes in a whisper, a soft realization that the life you've been living, though beautiful on the outside, hasn't felt quite like home on the inside. For Libra, a sign naturally devoted to harmony and aesthetics, it's easy to become consumed by how things appear. You're gifted with the ability to make things pleasant, to smooth over rough edges, to create peace in the middle of chaos. But right now, the energy asks you something deeper. What truth have you hidden beneath all that grace? With Venus as your ruling planet, you are naturally drawn to connection, to love, to beauty in all its forms. But real beauty, the kind that heals, begins within. It's not found in how others perceive you, but in how you meet yourself when no one else is around. The High Priestess, one of the guiding tarot cards for this moment, represents sacred inner knowing. She doesn't shout. She doesn't seek attention. She waits. She listens. She trusts the voice within even when it contradicts what the world says is logical or acceptable. And that's what this season is about for you. Not just finding balance on the outside, but finally creating it inside where your emotions, desires, and needs don't get edited to fit someone else's comfort. This is a time to sit with your journal, to ask, what truths have I silenced in order to be liked? Or, what dreams did I set aside just to keep things from getting messy? Because here's the truth, your soul doesn't thrive in perfection, it blooms in authenticity. The Star card, another energy surrounding Libra now, is a gentle light that shows up after a storm. It doesn't demand you to be fixed overnight. It simply reminds you that you are never too far from alignment. You haven't lost your light, you've just buried it under layers of expectations, obligations, and silent compromises. The act of reclaiming that light doesn't require force. It only requires honesty. A willingness to be with yourself, fully. To speak the truth, even if it trembles. To admit what you've been longing for. Not because anyone else needs to approve of it, but because you do. The Empress brings this process full circle. She reminds you that your softness is not a weakness. Your sensitivity is not something to overcome, it's a portal to creation. She asks, what are you ready to birth now that you're done pretending? That new dream, that new version of you, isn't selfish. It's sacred. And just like a garden needs space to grow, your truth needs space to rise. In times like this, it's easy to seek answers from the outside. To scroll through advice, wait for signs, or ask others what they think. But sometimes, the most powerful shift comes when you pause and remember, your body knows. Your spirit remembers. You don't need to be more confident, more successful, or more perfect to begin. You just need to be more you. And if you're afraid of disappointing people by finally choosing yourself, remember this: God doesn't call you to be everyone's peace. He calls you to walk in truth. And real peace, the kind that endures, only comes from within. So let the outside world do what it will. Your job is to come home to yourself. And maybe that's the quiet miracle of this moment, that even after all the roles you've played, the masks you've worn, and the boundaries you've bent, you are still allowed to return to your center. You are still worthy of building a life that feels true. One breath, one word, one small choice at a time. True balance, the kind that brings real peace to a Libra's heart, is never found through perfection or external approval. It begins the moment you decide to honor your own boundaries, even if that means unsettling the peace you've worked so hard to protect. You've spent so much of your energy making life smoother for others that you may have forgotten what it feels like to choose yourself without apology. But now, the energy is shifting. The universe is offering you a mirror, and it's asking, what part of your power have you given away in the name of being agreeable? The Justice card, your signature tarot archetype, reminds you that fairness is not just about how others treat you, it's also about how you treat yourself. Have you kept showing up for people who no longer show up for you? Have you overextended your time, your money, your energy just to avoid conflict or guilt? If so, this is your moment to reset the scales. Justice doesn't require you to become cold or distant. It only asks you to become clear. And clarity begins by getting honest about where your energy is going and whether that energy is being returned. Paired with the Nine of Pentacles, this energy paints a picture of grounded self-sufficiency. This isn't about being Allen, it's about remembering you can thrive on your own terms. Financially, this means building healthier boundaries around spending and saving. Not from scarcity, but from self-respect. Learning to say no to impulsive decisions, and yes to investments of both money and time that nourish your future. A helpful question to ask yourself this week might be, is this purchase or this habit an expression of my worth, or an escape from my discomfort? In love, this energy calls you to step back and observe your patterns. The Queen of Swords enters here as your guide, elegant, wise, and unafraid to speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Are you staying in certain connections because they still fulfill you or just because they've become familiar? True intimacy can't grow in places where your needs are minimized. If you find yourself constantly overgiving, or tolerating mixed signals, know that choosing distance doesn't make you unloving, it makes you discerning. And discernment is a form of self-care too. Your physical and emotional health are also asking for recalibration. As someone who often absorbs the emotional energy of others, Libra, it's essential that you create daily rituals to return to yourself. This might look like 10 minutes of breath work each morning, journaling through tough emotions at night, or even using mindful creative expression like sketching or painting to release what words can't say. These gentle practices help lower cortisol levels and bring you back to center, where your nervous system can feel safe again. Color therapy can support this shift as well. Wearing or surrounding yourself with beige and soft cream tones may seem subtle, but these hues mirror the energy you're being asked to embody: quiet strength, steady grace, and quiet self-respect. When you choose colors that regulate rather than stimulate, you're telling your system, I'm safe to be still. I don't need to perform to feel valuable. And while all of this may sound simple, it requires a level of bravery that's often misunderstood. The world doesn't always reward people for protecting their peace, but that doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. God doesn't ask you to keep pouring into others until you're empty. He reminds you to be a good steward of your gifts, including your energy, your heart, your mind, and your time. And that begins with recognizing your value not by how much you give, but by how you give to others and to yourself. So if you've been feeling the need to draw a line, to pause, to reevaluate, trust that nudge. It's not selfish. It's sacred. Balance was never about keeping everyone else happy, it was always about returning to your truth. And your truth, Libra, is worth protecting. Freedom is rarely a sudden event. More often, it's a quiet decision repeated each day, the decision to choose yourself, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's unfamiliar. For Libra, a new cycle is unfolding that doesn't just offer freedom as a distant dream, but places it in your hands as a real, tangible choice. The energy surrounding you now is asking not just what you want, but whether you're finally ready to allow yourself to have it. There is a difference between wishing and choosing. One lives in the mind. The other lives in the body. And this cycle is about anchoring freedom into your daily reality. The World card arrives here like a soft exhale after a long climb. It says you've completed something, maybe not in a loud or visible way, but energetically. You've outgrown the space you were once content with, and now there's no going back. It's not just about endings, it's about expansion. For Libra, this means stepping into structures that support the kind of life you actually want to live, not just the one that looks good on paper. Maybe it's a career that allows for more expression, or a relationship where you no longer filter yourself, or even a home where your nervous system feels calm, not just your guests. The Four of Wands reinforces that. This card represents celebration and foundations, not flashy achievements, but the ones that truly matter. It speaks of finding your place, emotionally and physically. Many Libras may find that this is a season of new invitations, unexpected messages, or heart-opening conversations. A job offer that aligns not just with your skills, but with your soul. A relationship that isn't built on proving, but on presence. A friendship that holds space for your silence as much as your laughter. These things might show up subtly through timing, through a door that opens just as you were about to give up, through a yes you weren't expecting. That's the universe whispering, "It's safe now." You might also notice the presence of numerological energies in your life. The number 4 speaks to grounding. This is about putting roots where your spirit feels at home. The number 11 signals intuitive gateways, downloads, inner clarity, and a sense of divine alignment. And 8, the number of karma and financial energy, reminds you that your outer world is beginning to reflect the energetic shifts you've been cultivating within. When these numbers show up, whether on receipts, clocks, or in dreams, pause for a moment. They aren't random. They're confirmations. But this kind of freedom, real freedom, comes with responsibility, the responsibility to choose with intention. And that means asking yourself not just what feels easy, but what feels true. One of the most healing questions you can explore right now is, if I were completely free to choose again, what would I change? Not from regret, but from wisdom. What would I say yes to that I've been avoiding? What would I let go of, even if it makes others uncomfortable? What version of myself have I kept waiting, thinking it wasn't time yet? There is a kind of strength that comes from alignment. You no longer have to push or prove. When your actions match your values, things begin to unfold more naturally. You still face challenges, but they don't drain you in the same way. You still feel fear, but you're no longer ruled by it. That is the energy of a life in its rightful rhythm. And in moments of doubt, it helps to remember, you were not made to fit into spaces that shrink you. You were made to grow, to stretch, to step into the fullness of who you are, not eventually, but now. So whatever new offer, invitation, or desire has been tugging at your heart lately, don't dismiss it just because it's unfamiliar. Don't assume you're not ready just because it's new. God gently reminds us that freedom is not found in avoiding discomfort, but in walking in truth. And when you walk in truth, the right people, the right places, and the right timing begin to find you. Not because you chased them, but because you finally made room for them to arrive. If you're still here with me, Libra, then I know something deeper than curiosity brought you to this space. Maybe it was a whisper in your spirit. Maybe it was a moment of quiet desperation you didn't tell anyone about. Or maybe you just somehow thought this message was meant for you. And if that's true, then let me gently remind you, you didn't arrive here by accident. You were guided. You were led here at the exact right time to hear the words that perhaps your soul had been waiting for. Everything you've just heard isn't just meant to be felt, it's meant to be lived. You now stand at the edge of a doorway, and what happens next will not be decided by chance, but by choice. The real question isn't what the future holds. The real question is, will you dare to choose yourself, to trust your inner compass, and to walk through that door? You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be fearless or perfect. You just need to be willing. Willing to let go of one thing that's heavy in order to hold something that's true. Willing to make one decision that aligns more with who you really are, not who the world expects you to be. willing to believe that your peace is worth protecting and your joy is worth prioritizing. So take a breath, and really ask yourself, what would shift in my life if I stopped postponing my own becoming? What kind of love would I welcome in if I no longer settled for survival? What vision would I bring to life if I trusted that I was already enough to begin? The truth is, Libra, happiness is not something that finds you. It's something you claim. It's an act of daily courage. A choice to say yes to yourself, even when it's inconvenient. A choice to sit with your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And yes, a choice to believe in the possibility of magic, not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally open to receive what's real. I want you to know that your path is yours alone, and no one can walk it for you. But that doesn't mean you're walking it alone. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, clarity over confusion, faith over fear, you become a lighthouse for others, too. That's the kind of ripple effect you carry when you move in alignment. And if today's message stirred something within you, whether it brought you clarity, comfort, or simply a quiet moment of reflection, I invite you to write this in the comments right now. I choose truth. I choose myself. I choose the miracle without needing anyone else's permission. Let it be your affirmation, your declaration, your energetic turning point. You've earned this clarity. You've earned this new chapter. But only you can say yes to it. So tell me, beautiful Libra, what are you ready to bury forever as this month comes to a close? What chapter are you closing with love, and what new story are you finally ready to write? And if this video brought you a sense of healing or recognition, if it reminded you of your power or helped you remember your worth, please leave a sparkling heart below and subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot so we can keep growing this sacred space together. Your presence here matters. Your energy matters. And your healing, your joy deserves a place at the center of your own life. You're not late. You're right on time. And the life that's waiting for you? It's closer than you think. Let's walk into it together.